Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I am, hold on, looking for my attendance sheet, and I might have to make a new one for some people because I can't seem to find the most recently saved version of it. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm lying. I think I found it. Hooray. I did. Okay. All righty. Let us wait until about 11:05, and then we'll get started.
Congrats on this weekend's sale, Jared.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're supposed to actually close on tomorrow, but is that my dog in here? Is he out there? Okay. We're supposed to actually close tomorrow, so it was a little preemptive, but since it's in Santa Barbara, I wasn't gonna drive all the way up there, for another reason, just to like take videos or photos. So I decided just to post it over the weekend. But thank you. Anybody else get any new leads, new business, new something?
I got a new buyer trying.
Well, whoever said new buyer, good job. And whoever's trying, keep going. I'm just setting up all the stuff for the class today. But yeah, no, it's what I'm noticing is the market is starting to shift a little bit. It's getting a little bit better for buyers, in my opinion, which is good. There's a little more, well, actually inventory is still really low, so that's not necessarily true. But I've noticed that I've at least had opportunities to negotiate pretty well for my buyers on behalf of my buyers, and able to get considerable amounts off throughout the process. So that's good. I don't know. Does everybody kind of watch like what the predictions are for like the spring and summer from the National Association of Realtors or CAR? Highly recommend doing it. All righty. So I'm going to go grab a water really quickly, and then we'll get started. I might need to add a couple people onto the list. And I also want to update the list for everybody because there's 2 classes that I didn't give credit for. So we'll go ahead and do that during this class. But right now is a good opportunity if you want to go grab something to drink. If you need a little caffeine, something to snack on throughout the class, that was a good time. So we will start in about a minute or two. Be right back. All right. Okay. Let me pull this up. All righty. So let's see. Who do we have here? Crystal Stewart, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Do I have you down? Yes, I do. And you wanted to make sure I gave you credit for the last 2 classes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I was on the last 2 and you couldn't find this form.
Okay. No worries. So last one was 4 and 3. So
yeah, and huh?
8 and 9, and this would be 10. So happy birthday. Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So Crystal, how was your weekend? Did you make any calls? Did you get any new leads?
So let me just pull up my spreadsheet. So, because the last time we spoke about it and you couldn't put it on here. So I think the last time we'd spoken, I think I said I had 18 and 6, and then I have to add, so it's like 28 and like 12 now.
Dope.
But also I'm still not licensed. So these are, and I'm still on the East Coast at the moment. We leave at the end of April. So all of these people are either just people that I'm saying, like, if you know anybody moving to the West Coast, and or other people that are in Keller Williams offices that I know, just friends of mine from like before.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Awesome. Well, keep it up because once you get licensed, you'll just be knocking them down dead. So that's awesome. Good stuff. Awesome. When do you move over to LA again?
So our lease is signed for April 25th, but we'll be in LA May 1st.
Awesome. Very cool. Nice. Awesome. Perfect. All righty. So Batya, I might have to add you.
Hey.
I got you. There we go. How was your weekend? Did you do any lead generation?
Yeah, it was good. I have clients that are in the midst of getting an answer today if they got approved for a lease. So that's exciting. And then I'm showing a buyer a couple of properties. We saw some yesterday. He saw one initially like a month ago that he loves, and he keeps comparing all the other ones to that one. It's just a price situation of a $200,000 difference of a reduction that he would like. And the sellers, it's been sitting for a long time. It's a funny story. It's actually a listing of the team that I was on before I switched over to Keller Williams. So whatever. It's just funny how things work out sometimes. But yeah, I told them, I said, look, my buyer's ready to submit the offer. She said if it's the asking price, I think, is 1.295. She said if it's gonna be anything around $1 million, like, kind of don't waste your time. But then she called me back yesterday and said I should submit it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Who she is? Who she? Your client or
the
she
listing
the agent?
Sorry, the listing agent. Yeah.
So this is a perfect conversation to have right now. So what I've noticed, at least as far as some of the listings that are on the market, if anything's been sitting on the market for more than 30 days in this type of a market, which is still a very strong seller's market, there's screaming red flags everywhere. There's something wrong with the property. It's overpriced. It's something. And in this situation, it sounds like it's overpriced. So whenever an agent goes, don't even waste your time submitting an offer under whatever, F that, submit the offer anyway. Just go ahead and write it up, send it in, and we'll, find out if they're bullshitting or not. Excuse my French. But
right.
It sounds like all of a sudden now she's going, yeah, go ahead, submit the offer, I'll see what I can do, kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
And usually whenever that happens, I'll see what I can do usually means you got an accepted offer. So
I hope so. I love the positive vibes.
Well, for example, the property that I'm closing on Tuesday, they when I was first looking at the property with my clients, we saw the property. It was listed at, I forget what it was, I think it was 1175 or something like, I don't know, something like that. So I asked them, I was like, how many showings do you have this weekend? And they're like, oh, we had 4 scheduled showings already. So already I could tell that, like, and I did some comps. It was like right on the money. Like, remember, like I always say, like, or what the course always says, if you price a home 10% under market value, you're going to get 75% of the market share looking at the house. Meaning you're going to have a crazy amount of requests to see the property. If you're priced right at the market value, you're only going to get about 50% of the market share. So this is a perfect example where I think she was priced maybe a couple $1,000s above, market value. Now, I looked at the property and I said, you know what, it's going to appraise. I can obviously tell that it's worth what they're asking, but it's right there. They didn't do that little trick where you kind of go a little bit under market value to get a whole bunch of offers and get into a bidding war, and then eventually sell like 30, 40, 50 to $100,000 over asking price. So anyway, we go and we take a look at the house, and I'm on Zoom with my client, and I asked the listing agent right on Zoom, which by the by made her feel very uncomfortable on the spot. She didn't have a chance to reply via text. She didn't have a chance to, think about it for a second and send an email out. It was right on the spot. And I was like, how many showings do you have later today? And she said, well, I had 2 canceled because of COVID. I was like, interesting. So I could tell that she was a little bit nervous because she had some canceled showings. Then I said, well, great. If I submitted an offer right now above asking price, would you have your clients accept it, or would your clients accept it? And she's like, you know what? Yeah, go ahead and submit it. So I submitted the offer. We were about $10,000 above asking price. And great. We got them to accept the offer immediately. Now,
why wouldn't she have accepted it? Why did you even ask?
Because I wouldn't have accepted it. I would have 100% showed the property all weekend and
I hear what you're saying.
Okay. And then just tried to get more offers. And I would have held on to that offer. And I said, hey, I have an offer in hand. If you want it, you gotta beat it. And I would use that as leverage to get other buyers to overbid. And it's just a selling strategy. So anyway, point is though, and by the by, I love this agent. She's amazing. She's very, very ethical. I enjoyed working with her. But the point that I'm getting at is throughout the entire escrow, we submitted a request for repair that was, I think it was like $23,000 asking for credits back. And sure enough, we get, around $10,000 back. And so the point is she was like, there's no way they're going to give you money back. There's no way that's going to happen. Absolutely not. And I just kept going, I understand, but I got to do what I have to do. This is my client's wish. And, I have to submit this offer, this credit, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, she goes ahead and we go meet in the middle ground. So the point that I'm getting at is that whenever we're dealing with listing agents, they're always going to say, don't even bother submitting it unless it's at asking. Don't even bother submitting it unless it's over asking. Don't even bother, whatever. But if we can see that it's been on the market for a while, we can see that there might be some issues with repairs that might be needed. If we can see any of those things, don't feel scared to submit that offer, because I would rather you submit the offer than hold on to it and then have them all of a sudden enter escrow with somebody else. You see what I'm saying? Like, get that offer in, technically it's a dead offer within, I think, 48 hours or something like that, but put it in like, this offer only stands for 24 hours, play a little hardball, and see if they accept. And then, because the point that I'm getting at is when you have leverage, you're oftentimes able to get agents to start acting and moving on it. Oh my God, Arthur, I just let you in. I'm going to kick you out, bud. I'm sorry. Give me a second. I'm sorry, bud. I don't care. I know. Come on. Up. Go bother grandma. Come on. Go. Anyway, so, but good job. So it sounds like, she was trying to play a little hardball with you, and then she played.
The only thing is that at this point, like right now in this very moment, from basically, I spoke with the listing agent on Thursday who was like, don't waste your time. So between then and Saturday night, I was sending my clients like similar properties that were priced substantially lower than the one that he liked, but it was missing the main factor that's selling him, which is like the private roof deck, which is incredible. And that's what he's loving about the property. So now he wants to see the other 3 units before he submits the offer. You know what I'm saying?
I would highly recommend just submitting the offer anyway, and then
trying to tell him how to like.
So yeah, explain to your client, even if we submit the offer, and it gets accepted. We have 3 days to submit our earnest money deposit. So let's say, for example, you do see another property that you love. We submit an offer on that. We find out if we get accepted or rejected, whatever. And then even after we submit earnest money deposit, we could get an additional, even let's say we don't submit our earnest money deposit, they still have to serve us what's called a notice to perform. So you get an additional 2 days after that. So the point that I'm getting at is there is no
nothing to lose.
There's nothing to lose. There's no financial penalty. You don't have to, even really act on it, super fast. But the point is, why he risks losing this property by not submitting an offer, by chasing the other ones. So if the other agent's saying submit it, listen to them, put the offer in, see if you get accepted. If you do, great. And then obviously keep looking at other houses. I've technically had my client in 2 different escrows at the same time. So I'm not too worried about that. As long as the inspection contingency is still in place, as long as earnest money and you haven't received a notice to perform is still, in play, you're all good. You can walk away for any reason at all. Any reason.
Okay.
You know what? I don't like the pink walls. What? It's paint. Yeah, too bad. Don't like it. Literally, it could be, we just realized we don't like the location that much. So we're rescinding the offer. That's a perfectly acceptable reason to cancel an escrow, especially if it's within the first 5 days of entering escrow. So don't worry about that. Push them to write that offer and, be greedy, be greedy in this market, and be bold. So good job, Batya. That's awesome.
Thanks so much. I will definitely call them after this.
Definitely. And so you were here on the last 3, 4, and this is the 5th one. All right.
I didn't realize it's a whole official thing with credit. I didn't realize that with this class. Okay, it's good to know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, is what it is. Awesome. I don't control the education stuff.
No, I think it's good. No, it's
I agree. Actually, frankly, it is really good because it really kind of gets us in gear to what we need to do in our first, I don't know, months. Anyway,
right.
Awesome, Batya. Thanks, Morgan Dixon. How goes it?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking. You might be one of the people I need to add.
I'm above Batya.
Oh, I'm kidding. I don't need to add you. Perfect. How are you?
Good. I'm at 10 and 7. Again, I don't have my GRE number yet, but I'm just reaching out to friends, and I have 2 scheduled lunches for this weekend to meet with the people who I know are kind of serious and just see kind of what they're looking for. And then when I can legally act on it, hopefully I'll already have a lead or 2. So that's where I'm at.
Get it. Bug life. Love it. Cheers. Amber.
Hello.
Hello. How was your weekend?
Good. How was yours?
Good. It was chill. My girlfriend flew back into town. She was visiting her dad in Tampa, and I got to pick her up on Saturday. So it's good having her back in town. I'm super
nice.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that.
I saw you put this barbecue on your Instagram.
Oh my God, it was so dank. It was so good.
That looks so good.
It was very, very good. It's Bobby's Small Batch. And if you're looking for a really good barbecue for 4th of July or something, he's awesome. He just does small batches. He doesn't have a restaurant. He's a pop-up kind of dude. And he'll do 1 or 2 batches per month. And he takes pre-orders, and oh my gosh, it's just phenomenally good. It's better than Blood Says, I'll have to say. And that's a barbecue, Texas barbecue that's based in Englewood. And anyway, it's better than them even. So anyway, moving forward. So did you make any contacts?
I talked to 4 new people. I found out that one of my husband's friend's moms works for a lender, and I talked to her, and she said that she would be a good connection to have eventually. So that was good.
Nice. I love it. Good job. Good stuff. Awesome. And I still need to send you some stuff. I apologize. So
Oh yeah, no worries.
I'll get on that later today. Awesome. Good stuff. I did Crystal Stewart. Lisa, do I have you on here? Yes, I do. There we go.
Yes. So I'm meeting with the buyer actually on Thursday.
Nice.
She's already given me all her specs and everything, so we're actually gonna go look up some properties.
Awesome. I love it. And were you here for the last 2 classes?
Yeah, I did 3 and 4. I missed 2.
Okay. Awesome. And how did you find that buyer?
So one day I was like, I'm just gonna go through all my friends on Facebook and literally message everybody. And then I messaged her, and that same day she got engaged, and she was like, yeah, we've actually been looking at townhouses. Like, can you come help us? And I was like, yes, I can.
Yes, I can. Absolutely. 100%. And that's a perfect example, for all of us who are on here, be proactive. Go ahead and copy paste like a little, hey, I'm in real estate. Are you looking? And send it all to everybody in your friend list on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And you'll be surprised at how many people you might actually have who are actively looking. So good job. Awesome, Lisa. All righty. Shannon Schuster. Do I have you on here?
No, I actually am new. I just started last week, so.
Hey, Mazel Tov. Welcome.
Thank you.
Shannon. Oops. Schuster. Okay, so what the heck are we doing? Let me explain. So what we're doing right now is we want to try to hold ourselves accountable, because the number one pinnacle of real estate, or the foundation of real estate rather, I should say, is lead generation. If you're not proactively reaching out to people, reminding them that you're in real estate, letting them know that you can help them with their buying or selling needs, you are likely not going to get a lot of business. So the number one thing that we want to do is we want to reach out to our friends, family, general sphere of influence, people on our Facebook, Instagram, past coworkers, past clients from other businesses, whatever it might be. It goes on and on and on. Members from the church or synagogue or mosque or Buddhist temple, wherever. And we want to make sure we are reaching out to them proactively and letting them know. So to do that, we come up with this little spreadsheet that we have right here. And right here under the B column, I think I'm sharing my screen right now. Yes, I am. Good. Under the B column is how many calls per day we're willing to make, or excuse me, contacts per day we're willing to make. And then we get how many per week that turns into. And then in the right side of that, on the D and E, is the number of calls that we made and the actual amount of people that we contacted, which correlates to what we're trying to do per day. So how many calls can you commit to, or contacts can you commit to per day starting this out? Just so you know, we shoot for around 10 contacts a day, but for a lot of other people, you'll notice we have some 6s, we have some 5s, we have, I think I used to have a 2 somewhere, but the point is whatever you feel comfortable with is where we should start, and we could always go up from there. So what are you thinking?
I'm gonna say 5 for now, but can I change that later on if I think I can do more?
Absolutely, we can.
Okay.
So, good stuff. Good to have you on the class. And the good thing is you can pretty much jump in any of the classes and go from there. So I think you'll find it helpful. Awesome. Good to have you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, on. How goes it?
Good morning.
Good morning. Do I have? Yes, I do. There you are. How was your weekend?
It was great. It was pretty chill. I went to go get a foot massage.
Oh, where did you go first and foremost? Because I want to go there because I love foot massages.
Oh yeah. So I found out about this Chinese foot massage in San Gabriel. It's on Valley. They're like $35 for 70 minutes. Super awesome. Yeah, it was great.
There was this Thai massage place that was like, I was living in the Valley, and my girlfriend at the time, the girlfriend's passed, she recommended it. It was like, it was super cheap. It was super dingy, but like, it was legit.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think it was like $7 for 30 minutes or something like that. And I
Oh
would
my
just like go for the
goodness.
hour, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It was so great. But yeah,
Right.
I miss those. Anyway, so good
Yeah.
stuff. Awesome. So how many calls or contacts did you make?
So I made 47 contacts. Actual contacts are about 8 people. I have a couple of buyers interested in leasing, and I have a couple of buyers interested in buying, but they're waiting until the end of this year.
End of this year?
End of this year, yes.
Can I ask why?
They just feel like they don't have enough saved up for a down payment.
Okay,
Yeah, and they're kind of in the middle of like they're, you know, the business because of COVID and everything. So they just want to have all that settled before they, you know, jump into start looking to buy.
Perfect. That makes sense. That's the one excuse that I hear from a buyer that I'm like, makes sense. No worries.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I do hear those buyers who are trying to teach me about the market, and I'm like, interesting. And they're like, I think the market's going to crash. It's like, okay, that's cool. Where are you getting your info from? My mechanic. Good job. So, anyway, so just a little joke there, but it happens. But awesome. Good job. And yeah, keep it up.
Okay.
All righty. Jaime.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning,
Right.
sir.
So first off, Jared, if you don't mind, what do you provide? What response do you provide those clients that give you that excuse as far as the market changing?
Oh, by the way, were you here the last 2 classes?
No, this is the first one. In fact, I was also going to ask if this is the class that I should be in. I just saw the calendar and I joined. I am an experienced agent, but I don't know if that's
Anybody
fine or if
can
this
join these
is intended
classes.
for more. Okay.
All of these classes are for experienced agents, for new agents, what have you. The reason why I teach these is because it keeps my abilities sharp, so to speak.
Yeah, sure.
And what do I say to those clients who say, I want to wait because the market is crashing? Well, what I would ask them is, one, where are they getting their info from? Is it their Aunt Tilly from Minnesota, who is totally not in our market, who has no idea what's happening in Los Angeles? That's one thing that I would want to find out. Is it their mechanic? Is it who's giving them this sage advice that I have not heard of? Because if it's something credible, I want to know it, frankly. So I'm not necessarily coming from a place of like, you're wrong. I'm coming from like, well, interesting. I'm in this business. I do this professionally, and all the data that I have points to the opposite. So if you have something different, I'd love to know what that is. And then they kind of go, oh, well, yeah, it's actually my mechanic was telling me that he thinks it's going to do this. And I'm like, okay, great. So just some interesting, tidbits that I want to mention. I'm sure your mechanic is very, very knowledgeable. And, I have a feeling they probably experienced what happened in 2006. Now, issue with that is the reason why that market crashed is because we had a lot of subprime loans that were happening and a lot of stated income lending. And that is not the case in this market. What is happening in this market, which is very different, is our interest rates are extremely low. The lending practices are extremely tight and stringent. The inventory is extremely low, and that is creating this, very interesting kind of market. Now, the one thing that I know that we're expecting for the spring and summer of 2021 is that the home price index the home prices are supposed to go up by 3%, and that's just on a national average. In places like Los Angeles, which is a very, very interesting microcosm of an economy, all bets are off with that 3%. It could be 6% for all we know. If we maintain this low inventory, we could see it going up, frankly. Now, let's say, the inventory kind of levels out a little bit. We get a few more homes on the market to, meet our buyer demand. We might see a slight, plateau of home prices. It might not be going up. It's not going down. It's just kind of going, across the line. The main thing that I want us to look at, Mr. and Mr. Buyer, is for us to focus on the interest rates. Interest rates right now are still at relatively historic lows. However, interest rates have slowly been creeping up, and we are expecting this to happen, especially when things start opening up again. So I would actually argue that the affordability of homes is going to, it's going to be a little bit harder. Excuse me, I'm trying to sound smart for a second. But the point is that, right now, if we see interest rates going up, we are going to see the affordability go down. And so it's my opinion that if there's somebody is a buyer who's out there who's going to be utilizing a loan, that they should be taking advantage of the market today, not waiting. Because if prices, stay the same and interest rates go up, that's just a more expensive home. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no. But some buyers would argue that when those interest rates go up, you have less competition on the buying side, and then you'll see the prices halt and even potentially decrease, right? And part of, okay.
So interesting little tidbit. If you have, in 1970, I believe the interest rates were at like 10%. So to borrow $1 million, you got 10% on that. You're looking at what, $100,000 just for the privilege of borrowing money to buy a $1 million home. Interesting, right? Versus what? Let's say worst case scenario right now at 3%. So now that looks at $30,000. So that's a huge difference. I mean, huge. So if interest rates go up by 1%, you'd have to see a decrease in purchase price by, almost $20,000, $10,000 over the course of the loan. So frankly, I don't see that happening, at all. And there's actually an interesting correlation where what you could do with numbers. It's very interesting. Interest rates are far more important than sales price. Way more important. It's actually cheaper to buy an inflated home price at a lower interest rate than it is to do the opposite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I just have heard some of this feedback from clients, and so I was just curious to see, what you tell your clients. But I shared something similar, and I do tell them that, what's most important is for them to purchase a property that they like, that they can afford, that they're comfortable with a fixed payment. Because I've had a lot of clients who over the last 2-3 years especially have said, no, the market's gonna reverse. It's gonna reverse. And if they would have bought, 3-4 years ago, they would have been sitting pretty today. And instead, now they're still waiting for that opportunity. And I doubt it's ever going to go back to the numbers that existed 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. So let's take a look at something. Hold on. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find this chart. I like to look at like the Case-Shiller reports, but I might have to look a little bit longer. Oh, here we go. That looks like a good one. Hold on, it's loading. Sorry. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading. Well, doesn't seem to want to load. Oh, well, I'm not going to waste the time. Point is, though, is Jaime, you could easily find like a line graph to show like what home sales prices were from 1970 all the way to 2021. And the line graph is going to look like 1970, 2021. Yeah, there's going to be a couple hills and valleys going on. but to be able to predict when that's going to happen, nobody has a crystal ball. I mean, really, the only time you know when something's going to happen, you might have a month's heads up. Like really, that's how quickly the markets kind of shift a little bit. So unless you're like sitting on a lot of income and just ready to rock and roll and like, okay, now's our shot, it doesn't pay to wait. I mean, and the amounts that you're going to save, frankly, are negligible. Because when that happens, interest rates change as well. So you have this weird kind of, paradoxical kind of, it's not the right word, but anyway, you have this really weird kind of equation going on where all of a sudden home prices go down, interest rates start to go up. So frankly, it's a wash, it's
sure.
Do it now. But yeah, it's interesting. Typically though, Jaime, when I'm having this conversation with a buyer who's like that, I would take the time to take 30 minutes to print out some stats so I can actually be 100% accurate with what I'm saying. I can just talk off the cuff and be more or less right. But if I have my stats in front of me, I much prefer to do that and just kind of go over the differences in home prices then versus now versus the interest rate and how much would it have cost you had you bought out that low, but the interest rates were high. And typically it's cheaper to buy right now with the prices being higher and the interest rates being lower. Mm-hmm. So that's just something that I would bring up to them and go from there. So awesome. And how many did you do? 5 and 5?
Well, numbers I provided this morning were 15, 12, and just closed a deal. So I guess 1.
Nice. Good job.
And I think I'm, sorry.
Oh, good job. Awesome. Taylor Smith. There we go. You there, Taylor?
She sent a chat box message.
Oh, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Nice. Get it. 2 buyers this week. Awesome. Good job, Taylor. I'll give you 2 and 2. And I know you have 5. I don't know about the other ones. Okay, awesome. Did I miss anybody? Awesome. Very cool. All righty. So this one is today's class, is going to be on price to sell with your CMA. And hold on, let me get this going. Awesome. Can everybody see price to sell with your CMA?
Yep, looks good.
Yeah, awesome. We can see.
Okay, so CMAs are very, very important in real estate. It's comparative market analysis. And this is what we use to price homes essentially. And whenever we're going to meet with a client, we are going to review a CMA with them. And so the whole purpose of the CMA is to try to help justify a home price, either that the seller is asking for or what we feel we could bring it to market and list it for. CMAs are also a very important tool in our listing presentation toolbox. So whenever we're doing a CMA, we're probably on a listing presentation. You could also use CMAs for buyers to help justify a sales price. Oftentimes, whenever I'm talking with a buyer, before I tell them, do I think this home is worth it? I will tell them, you know what? It seems like it is just from a glance, but what I'd like to do is do a CMA to get all the recent home sales data in the area, stuff that's like kind, apples to apples, let's say. Give me a second, I need to charge my computer, sorry. I have a red flashing thing right now saying that my computer's about to die. Sorry, 1 second. Made it just in time. All right. Okay. So the CMAs I also use for buyers to help justify the price that we're going to submit for an offer. And also to say, hey, listen, it's priced low right now. So don't expect to get it at this price. Am I a little choppy, by the way?
Extremely.
Rob. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. It looks it in my screen. I'm looking at it right now. All right, is it a little bit better now?
I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Am I
In
frozen
a
now?
very funny position.
Really? Oh gosh, I love flattering frozen positions. Great.
It's just black on my screen, so.
Okay. Right now, and hopefully that will help the connection a little bit. That's not working. Give me a moment. Technical difficulties. Sorry about that. Boy, this is really. What is going on? Well, my computer just has a little spinning wheel right now, so give me a minute. I need to shut off this. I'm going to have to log in and log out and log back in, unfortunately, because it says Zoom meeting is not responding. Hold on. All right, can everybody hear me on my phone?
Yeah.
Okay, let me log back in on this because something's going on. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, and you're not frozen.
Okay.
Right, yes, we can hear you and see you.
Sorry about that. I am not tech savvy and I don't know what happened there. Host has disabled. Okay, I need to call the front desk again. Sorry, let's hold for a second. Okay. So has anybody ever done a CMA?
Yes.
Jaime, how do you feel CMA helps you in a listing presentation?
Well, I go over the information from the report to give them an idea of the comparables, right? So I include everything from the active, pending, recently closed, and so on and so forth, all those properties, so that they can get a realistic viewpoint of what the property may be worth. I find that sometimes sellers tend to believe more so that the property is worth more than it actually is because they have that emotional attachment to it. And so I think as agents, we have that responsibility to provide them with a realistic viewpoint of what the buyers are going to be willing to pay. The other thing I highlight is that doesn't really matter per se as far as the final sale price, what we list the price for. It's going to be based on what buyers are willing to pay for the property. So ultimately, the buyers are the ones who determine what the final sale price is going to be. And so we just want to put the position of, or place the property for sale in a dollar figure that's going to draw in reasonable or good interest so that we can create a bidding war and increase the price as best we can. So the best way to do it is to be at or just below the value of the property and not go too high.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. And you know, oftentimes, like Jaime said, sellers will think that they will overvalue their home. You know, they'll look at features that are really dated, and frankly, they'll be like, "This is amazing. What are you talking about?" And it's like, "Oy vey." So we kind of have to, you know, show them the differences between their home and other homes that have sold for maybe the price that they're looking for. So very, very important for both the selling and buying side. And let's get into it. So obviously, like what we always like to go over is our handwritten notes. Remind everybody that what we need to be doing in first and foremost in real estate is lead generation. So these are just handwritten notes that we would be going over for expired or withdrawn listings, for referrals. If you would like a resource for that, please feel free to go back to this page and go ahead and print it out. In the meantime, I'm going to add this into the chat box so everybody can follow along on their own computers. So right now I just put the link to this in the chat box. And alrighty, getting our head in the game. Helping sellers determine the correct price for their property is part of the value you bring to them. Pricing can be easy with a properly compared comparative market analysis, CMA. Presenting your CMA and discussing pricing with the seller are the two major components of the listing appointment. You've already learned the dominant role your mindset plays in success in real estate. It's the same with your seller. Truth. Pricing has a large mindset component both for you and your seller. Pricing is a process. Learning to do it well also requires knowing pricing strategies based on the principles that drive the markets. It also requires knowing price tactics, building and presenting a comparative market analysis and scripts that go along with it. You will use your knowledge and expertise in pricing and presentation to win the seller's agreement on the list price, a price that will get their home sold. Sorry, not never get their home sold, get their home sold. All right, make it happen. Pricing. Pricing is one of the absolute essential real estate success skills. To become a pricing master, you must understand how markets work, local market conditions, and pricing criteria. How markets work, very important. Two price principles about markets and value provide a great foundation for pricing any real estate. Market dynamics. Markets operate on the law of supply and demand. When supply is high and demand is low, prices fall. When supply is low and demand is up, prices increase. Determination of value. Value is established based on an agreement between a willing seller and a willing buyer. The tug of war is always between what the seller wants and what the buyer is willing to pay. Very, very good mental imagery right there. Local market conditions. To price accurately and price to sell, you must constantly study the conditions in your local market and in the specific neighborhoods where you want to specialize. Here are some basic factors to watch. Inventory. How much is for sale? And is inventory rising or falling? Days on market. How long is it taking properties to sell? Price per square foot. And this is one of my favorite ways to price properties. A good comparative indicator of prices. When a group of properties has common qualities and features. Changes in local landscape. Monitor changes in major employers, shopping, schools, other services in the community, and changes in local laws that impact housing. So for all the agents who are in West Los Angeles right now or Beverly Hills, if you've been in Los Angeles for long enough, do you remember the shopping mall West Side Pavilion?
I do.
Yeah, it was a great mall. It was awesome, but it closed down. Do you know why it closed down?
Because malls are dying.
That part too, but I'm looking for another reason. So it's under
Better ones came out, like the Grove and Century City.
Sure, that could be true, but do we know who bought the West Side Pavilion Mall and what they're turning it into?
Google.
Boom, Google. Google is moving their offices over there, or they're having a satellite office over there. So they're taking over that huge mall and putting in a lot of what? Office space, which holds a lot of employees. Yes. So we are going to have a whole bunch of people moving to an area that used to be considered middle class. I kid you not. That area in West LA used to be considered a middle class neighborhood. Now, do you think that the home prices, which have already been going up, are going to go up even more once Google opens its offices over there?
Yes, absolutely.
Big time. In fact, a lot of developers are just salivating over that neighborhood because they know that they have a lot of Silicon Valley execs and project managers and techies and all that kind of stuff who are going to be moving to that neighborhood. Why? Because a lot of people like to live close to where they work. They don't want to have a big commute. It's a lovely neighborhood. The lot sizes are great and the homes are cute. And in fact, you can build some really amazing spec homes there, which I've noticed has been happening a lot. So that's a great example of changes in the local landscape. We've seen this happen in Venice. Venice used to be called the ghetto by the sea. I don't necessarily like the name that they gave it, but that was the nickname for it. Now, Venice is one of the highest priced real estates per square foot in California, and it might be in the nation, frankly. So what happened there? Same thing. Snapchat moved in. A lot of other, tech companies moved in there. It's turned into, it used to be, the ghetto by the sea. Now it's Silicon Beach. So the point is we need to watch what is happening in certain markets, in certain areas, to determine if there's going to be a price influx or if it's going down. That's a great way to kind of watch the market and to help price things. So sometimes I've noticed, recent sales data might show that anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but anyway, it's a one good thing to watch. Now, price per square foot, when you have like kind properties and for example, you have, I always refer to the 3-bed, 2-bath. One was built in 1970. The other one is brand new construction. Obviously, we're not going to compare those two properties together because they're not apples to apples. But let's say you do have a brand new construction property. You're going to go ahead and you're going to take all the comps that are brand new, or at least, remodeled within the last, 2 years or something like that. Sometimes it might be hard to find, brand spanking new, only a year old property in certain areas, but it helps to price your properties. Days on market is also very important. We want to monitor that mainly because we want to see what's happening with the market. If homes are staying on the market for a long time and we know that our seller needs to leave in 30 days, we might want to be a little bit more aggressive in our pricing strategy. Inventory. If we have a huge surplus in inventory, we need to be competitive. That means we need to be a little bit lower on our price than normal. Now, in this market where inventory is extremely low, we can be a little bit greedy. So instead of listing it 10% below market value, I might price it 5 to 2% below market value, or I might even just put it right at market value from the get-go. It really just kind of depends on what you want to achieve and what your client needs to achieve. And you figure that out through the listing presentation. But let's continue. Pricing criteria. Getting the facts about pricing means evaluating a given property against other comparable properties. This means comparing your client's 20-year-old 3-bedroom, 2-bath, they read my mind, 3-bedroom, 2-bath property in a neighborhood of similarly built homes with the homes that sold recently that match or come very close to matching the particulars of the home. The following factors come into play when looking for comparable properties: location, size, amenities, and condition. Now, we're going to get into this a little bit later, but what are the only things that we can really control in pricing or trying to sell a home? There's only 2 things that we as agents can control. Very close. Very, very close.
Price and condition.
Boom. Thank you, Morgan Dixon. That is awesome. Price and condition. Condition. I was saying Dixon. Condition.
Dixon.
Condition, yes. It's basically price and condition. So I just want us to remember that while going over the CMAs and pricing a home with our clients. All righty. Good job. That was a pop quiz. All righty. Your turn. Market statistics. Okay. So if we were in person, we would go ahead and do this. Because we're not, it's a little bit difficult to kind of share all the different things. I can only share one screen. So we're going to skip this. Okay, this is one of the best slides of this presentation. So page 14, pricing principles and strategies. I'm going to have somebody else read. Who wants to elect themselves?
I can start.
Awesome, let's do it. Yeah, read it down to know what sells.
Okay. It's very important to grasp the following 6 critical strategies. Am I on mute? No, okay. Sorry. Nope. It's very important to grasp the following 6 critical strategies that set the stage for using pricing criteria effectively. These strategies are standards you need to bear in mind as you approach pricing any property. With practice, you will absorb and internalize them. They will become part of you as a real estate agent and make you an outstanding advisor to both buyers and sellers.
Perfect. All righty. Know what sells. There's a little point in winning a listing if it does not sell, right? I don't want to have a listing that just sits on the market. That's money out of pocket, a lot of marketing, and no traction. So to get the home sold for the most money in the least amount of time, it must be priced in the market. There are 2 determining factors for this: price and
condition.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. All righty. Competitively priced properties must present in the best possible condition, outside and inside the home. The following graphic shows a combined selling power of the right price and a great property condition. The percentage of buyers who will look at a property increases and decreases in direct proportion to the property's price compared to the market value. Pricing above the market does not get you showings. Pricing at or just below the market does. So if we look at this graph right now, we have out of the market, which is that big, giant, sweeping red arc rainbowy thingy. Then we're at no man's land, where we're just kind of, who knows? And then in the market. So price versus comps, and then condition versus comps. So if we have a above market value and a poor condition, we are well outside of the market. We're not even getting looked at. Nobody cares about us. If we're right in the middle, we're also kind of still in no man's land. We're just kind of blowing in the wind. We might get a showing request or 2, but not so much traction. We really want to be in great condition and below market value. That's really where we want to be. And we're not talking like $300,000 below market value. Now, if we're talking about $20 million homes, we might be talking $300,000 below market value. But the average sales price in West Los Angeles, Santa Monica, et cetera, it's in the 1 to 2 millions, depending on where you're going on the west side. So, we're talking tens of thousands, 20s, something like that. Not a big deal. Now, as far as condition goes, we talk very frequently about staging. At Keller Williams, I want to remind everybody in our offices, if you're in the Beverly Hills office, we have our, oh gosh, I'm going to forget what it's called, but it's an all-inclusive staging, light remodeling, stuff like that, where we can do all of that, where there's no money out of pocket for our sellers. It just pays through escrow. So that's a really, really huge value add for us as agents. So for example, we come across this property, we're like, oh gosh, this would be great with a little bit of paint and a little bit of, upkeep. We could be in a great position to sell. So we also want to remind ourselves of that. Awesome. Know what sellers and you can and can't control. All righty. If an important part of the pricing process is to help your sellers understand that agents and sellers do not determine the price, the purchase price of their home. Instead, the market determines the price. Pricing to sell is based on understanding what is selling. Use the simple dialogue below. If I can have, let's see, somebody who I don't hear from often. Hey, On, could I have you read the script right here? Bum, bum, bum. You there? You might be on mute. All right. How about Shannon Schuster? You there, Shannon? All right.
I can read it.
All righty.
This is Julie.
Hey, Julie, you go ahead. You read it. Awesome. Thank you for stepping up.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, some of the things you can control during the selling process are the condition of your property, the availability of your home for showings, and your positioning in the market. And the end value is determined solely by what a buyer is willing to pay in today's market based on comparing your home to others currently on the market for sale. I don't determine value, and neither do you. The market determines value. Does this make sense?
Love it. And if I were a seller, I'd be like, okay, that does make sense. Great. Awesome. So understanding the window of opportunity. Now, when we're talking about the window of opportunity, and before I get to this slide, because it kind of shows the answer, at what point do we get the most traction in a listing? Give me a timeline.
Within the first week or two.
Boom. Who said that?
Morgan.
Morgan Dixon, you're on fire today. Awesome. Yes, within the first week or two. The sellers need to be clear on this. There is a window of opportunity that opens and closes quickly. The following graphic depicts how buyers' interest climbs rapidly when a listing hits the market and declines after the first month. So the first 2 weeks really are when you get the most traction. And especially in this market where it's just nuts. There's so many buyers and not enough listings. Within the first week, you should know if the house is priced well. When I had a listing over in Santa Clarita, I had over 200 people come within the first week. 200 showings. I mean, it was nuts. And we had, gosh, frankly,
would that mean that it's priced too low if you're getting 200 showings, or is it just because the market right now?
No, it's just because of the market, frankly. There was only 3 other listings in that neighborhood. Well, in that by that neighborhood, I mean within like Santa Clarita, like
wow,
whole Santa Clarita, in that price point as well. It wasn't like a really nice place like some of the Valencia homes or Stevenson Ranch ones. It was like Old Town Santa Clarita. I actually loved the neighborhood, frankly. It was, I think, like in the mid 500s, something like that. So anyway, the point is that there weren't a lot of those homes on the market, so to speak. So
gotcha.
Really, we only had like 2 other people who were in direct competition of us. We were the 3rd listing. So, and yes, I did purposely price it below those listings, mainly because the reasons for these sellers to sell was more of a dire need to sell. They were going through a bankruptcy and a divorce at the same time. So they really didn't have an option. They had to sell quickly. And by the by, we ended up selling $45,000 above asking price. So we did it perfectly, and we sold for more money than our other two competition. So we did all right. But the point of that is that in this market, there's just such little inventory and so many buyers that you should know right away if you're priced, appropriately. And that was an awesome weekend. In fact, I think we had too many showings because we only had 17 offers out of the 200. 17 offers is a lot of offers, but I think we scared off a couple people because they're like, we just don't want to get into a bidding war. And that happens a lot. So awesome. This is a good little graph that I have in my listing presentations. The window of opportunity. And I like using it. It's great. Okay, price to reflect the market movement. Pricing requires facts and numbers, yet it's also an art. An art of persuasion. Choosing the right comparable properties is a big step in the right direction. But there's much more to it. Your job as a listing agent is to help your sellers understand how the right price impacts the marketability and saleability of their home. Marketability and saleability are also determined by the following: market direction, whether the market is appreciating or depreciating, and market speed of change, how quickly prices are changing and what is the rate of changing it. Don't chase the market, price ahead of it. Now, this is very important. If we know prices are starting to fall, and we know that the home prices are starting to fall, do we want to price the home? So the prices are starting to fall. Do we want to price where the market is right now? Or do we want to anticipate where the market's going to be in 2 weeks?
We need to anticipate where the market's going to be in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Very, very important for a declining market. Now, if the prices are going up, that's a pretty good situation to be in. We don't want to price the market. We don't really want to price it 2 weeks ahead of a rising market. In fact, in a rising market, we want to be in the now. We want to be right now. Where are we? And in that case, it's pretty good to just be right on the money, or maybe 2% below market value in the current time of listing, in the current market snapshot, so to speak. And the reason for that is if we know that in 2 weeks' time sales prices are going to start going up a little bit, and we're right on the ball, a lot of those people who are making offers are going to still go well above asking price anyway. So we're going to be there anyway. So that's why those two determining factors are slightly different.
In a declining market, would you say that it is like a consistent decline, or how does that usually work when you're trying to anticipate?
So like, for example, for us real estate agents, we can kind of get a better sense of the pulse, so to speak, because we're doing this day in, day out, and we're constantly monitoring market situations. So for us, we know what's happening on a week to month basis, basically. Let's just say monthly basis. If we've noticed a consistent trend from the last 2 months slowly going down, we know that it's likely probably going to continue unless something drastically changes in the market, like a huge drop in interest rates, or yeah, basically that's the only thing that's going to affect that. Okay. So for us, it's a little bit, with time, you'll be able to kind of predict that a little bit better. But for me, what I would look at is the trend for the last 3 months. What's happening the last 3 months? Have we been slowly going up, or have we been slowly going down, or are we staying kind of stagnant, the same? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so don't chase the market price ahead of it. Your ability to be knowledgeable of the current market pays off when it comes to any kind of shifting markets, whether shifting up, appreciating, or shifting down, depreciating, and even in a stable market. Rising market. In the case of a rising market, sellers who feel time is on their side may price above the current market to hope that the market will catch up and bring them the price that they want. Provided the market continues to rise, sellers who want to cash in on improving prices in a rising market are still well advised to price at market to get the sale now. and move on with their lives. Exactly like what I was saying. And in fact, I still would say price it a little bit below, because we want to get that big lion's share of the buyer pool. So this shows a little graph, average home price, what the seller wants, where they started, and time on the market. It's going to take a little time for them to get it. So if we wanted to sell it right away, we want to price, right around over here. And then we get the sale pretty quickly. So also another conversation you have to have with what your seller needs. Do they need to move in now, or can they wait a little bit? Declining market. When prices are falling, sellers make a huge mistake by pricing too high, hoping to attract the offer that they want, and thinking that they will drop their price later if the strategy doesn't work. The reality is that most sellers who do this never correct enough to keep up with the pricing reality. Sellers who price right will get the house, will get the buyers, while the listing that's chasing the market down will take longer. Okay, sorry, I had a little brain fart there. But anyway, so this graph right here is a very good representation of what they're referring to. The price the seller wants, price correction. Still stays on the market, price correction. They never get it. So we really want to be conscientious of what's happening on the market, especially if it's declining. Again, going back to that, like, let's look at what's been happening the previous month and the month before that. If we can determine a trend, then we're going to want to bring that up to our sellers and say, hey, listen, this month to this month to this month, we're looking at a decline. So I understand that home prices are here right now, but in the event we take longer to sell, like a month to sell, we want to make sure we're ahead of the market. So let's use our crystal ball to kind of determine where we should be priced, and let's go ahead and price it at that price point. I'm not saying that we should, totally blow it out of the water by pricing it like $100,000 below market value. But, if let's say the market value is at, $1 million, yeah, let's price it at 950, and, hopefully we can even get a bidding war in that situation in a declining market. So we want to be a little strategic with it. And like the material is saying, it is a little bit of an art form. And with experience, you'll be able to determine, what you need to do in that certain situation. For me, like I said in my post recently, it is a buyer's market if you're working with the right agent. An experienced agent will be able to determine, oh, wait a second, here's an opportunity, let's seize it. So for example, in a declining market, that $1 million home, let's price it at 950. We'll go ahead and get multiple offers in a declining market, and maybe we'll even get it for $1.1 million. Who knows? So that's definitely something that I like to do whenever I'm pricing something in a declining market. In an upward ticking market, it's not as important. You'll probably get it if it's on the market long enough. Okay. Now, number 6, this is the most important one that I've found. Don't be afraid to be professionally honest. Pricing right is hard work, but it's worth it because it gets your sellers to their goal, and you make money for your business. Professional honesty is your best approach. It means understanding where the customers are coming from and being professional enough to stand up for them and tell them the truth about tough topics such as market conditions, property conditions, features, amenities, locations, buyers and buyer agent feedback, and comparable property sales. So we got a couple scripts over here, but before we get into the scripts, I don't want us to be the agents who are too scared to be honest with our clients that we don't tell them the truth. I've seen this happen a lot where, the agent is just so excited to have a client that the client is running the show. Everything the client says, they're like, okay. But I know that the pricing is, they should say what's on their mind. Obviously, it's up to the client to dictate what we do. Our job as realtors is to be a fiduciary. So we must obey our clients' wishes. It's kind of like the genie in the bottle. We are the genie. We must obey. That's fine and dandy, but we can be professionally honest with them and let them know. And the reason why that's so important is this happens to me very, very frequently when I'm working with a buyer, especially. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, the home that you want is listed, you know, right in your price range, but I want to advise you that it's listed 10% below market value. So while I know you want me to write an offer at asking price, it is my advice to you that we go ahead and write an offer 10% above asking price. That way we will at least get countered, and I could hopefully find out if we are, you know, in the right realm. But if we go at asking price, I promise you, we're not going to get a chance to look at it again. Then they tell me, I don't care, Jared. I want you to write the offer at this anyway. No problem. And I'll go ahead and do it. But now on the second time around, when we're going to write another offer, I'm going to remind them of what I told them last time. And then they will likely go, you know what? He was right. He was spot on. He said that this is what's going to happen, and it did happen. On this offer, let's go ahead and listen to him. That's exactly what happened on this new escrow that I'm closing on tomorrow. The first offer that we wrote, I told them that we needed to be, I think it was about $100,000. I said ideally we would be $100,000 above ask price, but I said I think we still have a chance at getting it if we write it at $1,085,000 or something like that. They said no, we want to write it at $1,070,000. Fine. It ended up selling for $1,080,000 or something like that. So I was $5,000 above where it actually ended up being sold for, and they were $10,000 below the winning offer. So they lost on that. But when I showed them the exact numbers and what it was in escrow for and what it closed for, they were like, oh my gosh, you were not kidding. You know this market very, very well, and you understand pricing very well. Okay, on the next one, we're going to listen to you. And sure enough, we were able to get it very, very easily the second go around. But the first offer we wrote, yeah, you know, I wrote it what they wanted me to write it at. They didn't listen to my advice, and so it was. But at least I was professionally honest, and I had some legs to stand on for the next offer we were writing when I was advising them to what they should write it at. So anyway, moving forward. So here's a short script to address pricing honesty. Alrighty, agent. Let's see. Let's pick somebody to do this. Is Shannon Schuster back?
Yes, can you hear me?
Boom, there you go, Shannon.
I'm here.
What I'm talking about. Awesome. Okay, Shannon, if you could go ahead, if you can see my screen, it says agent. Do you want me, and then read that little script, and then you're going to read the second script below that. I'll read the second part in between if the seller insists.
Okay.
So let's go from there. You're on.
Do you want me to tell you the truth, or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear?
Now, if the seller insists on the higher, I don't want you to tell me the truth. So of course, in that situation, Shannon, they're going to say, no, I want you to tell me the truth. So that's definitely a good script to use in those situations. Now, if the seller insists on a higher than market price, get an agreement now that if you have not had a bona fide offer in a reasonable short period of time, you will reduce the price to your recommended listing price. So read the second one.
The first few weeks your home is on the market are the most critical and will attract the most serious buyers. If we don't get a bona fide offer in this time, the market is telling us the home is overpriced. If after 3 weeks this is what's happening, do you agree to reduce the price to my recommended price to meet market demands?
Boom. And that's a very, very effective script. And that is a script that I've used before, almost verbatim. You know, obviously when we're in the listing presentation, we're not going to have a script in front of us, but you know, the gist of it is basically spot on. So this is a very, very good tool to use when you're in the listing presentation. Because there's not a lot of argument with that. You know, what is somebody going to say? No, I want you to lie to me? No, of course not. And then if you're asking, if you're working with somebody, you say, fine, I'll list it at the price that you want it, you want to list it for. But if it doesn't sell in the first, 3 weeks, the market's telling us something. Why is that? Because homes in our market right now get into escrow within 1 week. So if it's sitting on the market for 3 weeks, there's obviously something wrong. So these are all just professionally honest truths that help us get to the point, which is appropriately pricing a house and selling it.
Jared, I have a quick question, if I may.
Certainly.
Yeah, I've had that situation where I have reduced the price, and I just reduce the price once I get a verbal from the client. But should we be processing a price reduction car form?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, we should. Not only for, actually, it's mainly for legal reasons.
Yeah.
But also our office is going to require us to do that as well. Listen, if I'm working with, my cousin, and we're family, then, maybe I might, take it on, verbal. But even then, I'm going to, anyway, get it done on the car.
Point is yes. Okay, so just a kind of tying question to that. Other times when I list a property and we're getting offers above list price, to assist in the comps report for the appraisal process, I increase the price just to show the active pending parameters a little bit higher with my property. So would I have to be doing the same in that scenario?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? I'm trying to track.
Sure. So what I do when I have an accepted offer, if it's above list price, is I increase the list price so that the pending status on my property supports a higher price point when the comps are run.
Gotcha. Okay, so Jaime's asking, so if we have, let's say it's listed on the MLS for $1 million, but we accept an offer for $1,100,000. He's going to go into the MLS, from what I understand, on the pending and change the price to $1,100,000. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. I mean, not necessarily matching the exact amount, but yes, increasing it that way.
Gotcha. So for me, I've never done that. I don't know if there's any legalities to that. It sounds like that would be fine. You're now pending at 1,100,000. I don't do that because I think it affects my ratios so for example, I can look at, my sales data, and now I'm able to say I sold for 10% above, list price or whatever. And I like being able to do that because when I'm in a listing presentation, my data shows right now on the selling side of things, I on average get around 5% above ask price. If I take out my double-ended deals, it's about 5%. With my double-ended deals, it's around 3%. And on my buying side, I'm able to look at, the buy to, whatever ratio, and I get it about 5% below ask price. So for my buyer. Sure. So I actually like having that data.
Right. Now, and I guess just to elaborate a little bit more, I've noticed that the final sell price is based on the original list price. So it'll show either an increase or decrease from that original amount. Plus, I also go in there and adjust it once more once I'm ready to close the deal so that it shows the original sell price. And part of the reason that I do that as well is because I've had appraisers ask me, what do you have it listed for when they go in there for the appraisal inspection? So that's why I try to increase it a little bit. Yeah.
Pro tip right there. Thank you, Jaime. I mean, I haven't experienced that. Usually they ask me what is it in contract for? But that's interesting, very, very interesting. I haven't had that yet, but I mean, that sounds like, I'll look into doing that. Yeah.
And you probably have seen this, Jared, where, when it's $5,000-$10,000 off, as far as one way or the other, appraisers tend to match the list price. And so that's part of the reason why I do that is because if it's only going to be a couple $1,000s off, I match it, and then coincidentally, most of the time, I'd say 8 times out of 10, they match it to the list price. So that's why I make that adjustment.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Nice. I like it. I like it, man. I personally haven't done it. I'm not suggesting it. You can't do it. I've never done it. So I would probably check with my broker just to make sure that's hunky dory and okay for me to do. Yeah, sounds great. If I can, I probably will start doing that. So good job.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so this is a in-class kind of thing right now. So I'm going to skip this page. Okay, so this is basically a page for the definition of a comparative market analysis. If I could have Amber, if you could read this page, that would be awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
CMA is a, wait, hang on one second. Gotta move this screen. CMA is a process by which a property to be listed is evaluated against other comparable properties to determine a recommended list price. Use the CMA to present information to help sellers understand and accept the right price for their home. The CMA process includes the following: search the MLS for properties that correspond to the subject property, the one you are pricing, using the 4 main criteria: location, size, amenities, and condition. Number 2, select a small number of recently sold properties and properties pending sale that you believe represent the closest comparisons to your seller's property. The number of comparables available will be impacted by market conditions. Number 3, decide on a price to recommend to your seller that takes into account the comparables and your seller's motivation and goals. And number 4, review the data in a simple, readable format with your seller to show why you've chosen the price you are recommending and how their property compares.
Awesome. Love it. So yeah, CMAs are very important to use. Alrighty, pricing recommendations. Present your price recommendation by showing the sellers the following pages from your listing presentation that illustrate your conclusion. List of recent listings and sales most comparable to their own property, listings sold, pending, and active from their immediate neighborhood, covering a recent time period, usually in the last 30 days. Now, sometimes you will find that you don't have any comparable properties in the last 30 days, especially in this market where inventory is so low. You might get into a situation where it's like, oh my gosh, the last recent home sale was, 3 months ago in this neighborhood. So sometimes you might have to expand those parameters a little bit, just so you know, especially in low inventory markets. Property details for each of your selections, detail sheets for the comparable prices. Tip: print from these from the MLS. Conclusion: a summary page, see sample in your listing presentation guide, that pulls your conclusion together, supporting your price recommendations. Alrighty, for the seller, your price recommendation should feel like a conclusion that you have reached together after home data. Tip number 1, when sellers want to go above your recommended price, be sure they know that any offer they accept must meet the test of the buyer's professional appraisal. A price that won't appraise will require additional money from the buyer. Tip number 2, price per square foot can be a valuable tool, but only when comparables are very close together in terms of feature, age, condition, and location. Properties in newer subdivision would be a good example. So when we're talking about properties that are going to be going, so for example, in this market, it is very common for buyers to get pre-approved at a certain price point, but with the expectation that they may be paying above appraised value. This happens frequently for a lot of buyers in this market. So just so you know, tip number 1, it happens in certain markets. If we were in a different market like in Minnesota or something like that, you may find that some people will never, ever, 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 ever pay above appraised value. But in Los Angeles, a lot of people have disposable income and they don't care. They're like, hey, you know, the interest rate is great. I don't mind paying an extra $100,000, you know, to get this interest rate. Let's do it. And they'll go ahead and do it. So just keep that in mind. It's not out of the question, especially in this market. All righty. Okay. Hold on. I think this is, okay, never mind. Now, another thing I wanted to touch upon, actually, hold on. Yeah, so when we're doing the pricing recommendations, for the people who were on the last couple classes, do you remember when I was talking about how I will go over, when we're doing the listing presentation, when we go over pricing, I will oftentimes get one property that is, you know, let's say we're talking about that 3-bedroom, 2-bath property. I'll find one property that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but was remodeled last year. You know, it's just brand new practically. It might say year built 1957, but frankly, it was completely remodeled to the bones in 2020. So that price is obviously going to be well higher or way above a home that was literally built in 1957, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but has never been remodeled. So in those situations, what I would like to do is I'm going to take these properties and I'm going to show them, hey, so this one sold for $1,500,000, let's just say, and it was remodeled in 2020. How do you feel this home compares to your property? And they're going to look at it. They're going to look at the kitchen. They're going to look at the bathrooms. They're going to look at the, you know, open floor plan. They noticed that a couple walls was knocked down from the kitchen to the living room. So now it has that open flow. The windows to the backyard have these sliding pocket doors that just seamlessly, you know, close into the wall. It's like an indoor outdoor kind of feel, very modern. All the fixtures and lighting is brand new versus their original 1957. So, and except for paint and maybe redoing the floors, they haven't done anything. So I want to compare that house to our property and ask them and wait for them to say, yeah, that other property that sold, you know, a couple months ago is in way better condition than ours. Great. Then I'm going to find another property that is in worse condition than theirs. Let's say it has never been remodeled, including the floors, including paint since 1957, and how that does not compare to their property. And I'm going to get them to say that. And then I'm going to have like two more or three more other properties that are identical almost to theirs. It is a perfect comp. If I can find more of those, even better. But if I can only find one, I only find one. And I'm going to have them go, yeah, our house is very similar to this one. And then I'm going to show them the prices that all these houses sold for. And hopefully what we'll do is we'll kind of determine right in the middle that that's where they need to be. So that's a huge strategy that I use. I typically never tell them the price that I think their home is worth. I try to get them to say it. And I obviously have it written down where I want them to be, but I'm waiting for them to get to that number, so to speak. Okay. So this one wants us to make a CMA. We're obviously not in class in a classroom right now, so it's a little bit difficult. So what I will do, because we're pretty much at the end of the class, does anybody want to see me do a quick CMA right now? Or are you all in a hurry? If you're in a hurry, that's fine too.
I'm not in a hurry.
Okay.
Sure,
So if you need to go, now is a good time if you want to dip out. But for all the people who want to actually see a CMA be, you know, created, I'm going to do that right now, and I'll share my screen while I'm doing it. But for anybody else who wants to go, no worries, no hard feelings. Just get out there and make some phone calls. For everybody else who's staying, I'll go ahead and do that real quick. All righty. So first of all, does anybody have a listing that they want me to use for the CMA? No problem. I can use one of my old properties.
I have one. I don't know if you like one. I do have one. Sorry.
No, I'll just do an old one of mine, because you know what, I
Okay.
realized with a lot of agents, and I don't want to go up or down or whatever in case they have a buyer. You know, it could be kind of weird.
Okay.
Awesome. All righty. So I'm gonna use, where's my member login? I'm going to use an old property that I sold with Sharon Caffey in the office. We worked on this one together. Hold on. Okay. So this is the property that Sharon and I sold. This was 2253 Lennington. It was on the market for 61 days. That's a little inaccurate, frankly. Actually, no, that is pretty accurate. Our sellers, for one reason or another, didn't take the offer right away, and we had to backtrack to chase the buyer down. But we got it sold, and that was great. So happy all around. But let's see. So this is the property that we had sold. We staged this property, mind you. We also, but other than the staging that we did, everything was pretty much original. This is built in like 1930 something, I want to say. I forget the exact date. The kitchen was pretty much original. You know, a lot of the stuff was original. So aside from the staging, everything was pretty much as is. So I just want to show, is everybody seeing the slideshow right now? No, you're
No,
not.
it's frozen for me.
Whoops. Now you can see it. So this is the property that we had sold. It was pretty much, other than the staging, was in the original condition. All we did some paint for the exterior and the interior, and that was it. And we staged it. Other than that, everything was, you know, original. But cute home nonetheless. It was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and this was sold. Oopsies, didn't mean to do that. Where am I? There I am. And this was sold, what year was this sold? In 2019. So keep in mind, we are in 2021 now, but when this did sell, we sold at market value. It was great. Actually, we sold well above market value, frankly. So let me see. So we're going to want to take this property, and I'm going to write down, I'm going to copy this address. Now, if we look over here, we're in area 5, which is Westwood, Century City. I'm also going to look at the zip code, which is 90064. And now that I have all this information at hand, I'm going to go ahead and do a search. I don't want to start with Cloud CMA right now. We could do a quick and dirty version. I don't recommend doing that. If you want to be super, super accurate for a listing price, you're going to want to go the long way, which is the way I'm going to show you. But if you're working with buyers, for example, you could click Cloud CMA, click right here, and then you click quick and dirty, which automatically will pull up properties by proximity. And you can do it that way. But I would only do that with buyers. If you're going to list a property, you want to do it the long way and really look for some really solid sales data. Okay, you're going to probably lose the screen for a second while I go back. Hold on. And so, great. So we have the property address is 2253 Lennington. We know that the zip code is 90064. We know that it's area 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to search management tool. We're going to go to single family, click on it. Let me just make sure the screen is following me along. Here, I'll just do it this way. And instead of looking for active, coming soons, whatever, we're going to just go to sold, pending, and sometimes active contract. I'm not going to click active contract and pending right now, because hopefully I can find enough sold data, because that's going to be a little bit more accurate. Like Jaime was saying before, some people will change what it's active under contract for, but some people won't, like myself. And we want to see what it actually sold for. So right now it has, from December the 15th, 2020 to March 21st, March 2020 to the 15th. And that's fine by me. That's a 3-month period of time. Great. We're going to want to do, remember it's 4-bed. What was it? 4-bed, 2-bath, I think. What do you think? I think it was 3-bath actually. Darn, I think it's 4-bed, 2-bath though. So anyway, we're going to want to do max 4-bedroom. I just want to see how close we can get to the property. Let's see. And then we want living square footage. So right now what I'm doing is I'm pulling up the property on my mobile app, just so I can see some of the stats again real quick. Because I want to be apples to apple. 2253. Okay, yeah, 3-bed. Well, it says 3-bed, but it's 4-bed. Okay, so it's 4-bed, 2-bath. It's 1838 square feet. Now, for when you're doing a CMA, you're going to want to take that square footage, and you're going to want to go 15% below and 15% above. Sometimes it's 10%, depending on the size of the property. I'll just go ahead and do 15%. So 1833. You know, maybe I could do it on here. Yeah, calculator. So it's 18, what was it? 1838, excuse me. Minus 15% equals, so 1562. Let's do 1560. Then we're going to go back to our calculator. 1838 plus 15%. So 2,113 square foot. So let's call it 12,000. Let's just do 2,100. So great. So we kind of have some generalized info there. Now, we could do lot size. For the interest of time, I'm not going to go ahead and do that. But we want 90064 for our zip code. And then all of a sudden, this should start to change on my screen. Let's see how many come up. 0 listings. Wow. So again, we have very, very low inventory right now. So we're going to have to expand our criteria a bit. So we're going to go down to 3 bedrooms. We're going to go up to 3-bath. Oh, you know what? I could have just kept it at that. Let's do that. So, all righty. So now we have all these listings that have popped up, right? We're going to want to kind of click and pick and choose some of these listings. Now, remember, we had a Spanish style original home. So we're going to look for something that's like kind. So if we're looking at some of these properties, this is kind of a Spanish style. It's fairly original. I think this is a good property to use as a comp. Frankly, if this home was staged and repainted, I think it would look very, very similar to our listing. By the way, can everybody still see what's on my screen?
Yeah, we can see what's on your screen. I can anyway.
Okay, good. So frankly, if this was repainted, I think that it would be very comparable. As an agent, obviously it's not staged, but I'm going to go ahead and use this property, Greenfield, as a comp. So that's a good one. Let's look over here on veteran. we're looking at this. It's also Spanish style. Wow, that looks very similar to the interior of our home. Looks like it may have been slightly updated. I'm not sure yet. That could just be staging. No, it looks very, very similar. I mean, they maybe refaced the cabinets, but other than that, it's pretty spot on. In fact, I think Meredith Bear did stage this property because the staging even looks similar. So yeah, this is a great comp for us. That house is huge next to it. So let's go ahead and do veteran. And now these homes, I know this area very well. I'm not going to include these. These are very different neighborhoods. I mean, it's fairly similar, but it's not smack dab in the middle like the other ones. So, okay, let's look at this property. Not quite Spanish, but the period is right. Now this was updated. This has recessed lighting. The kitchen was definitely updated. I don't think that this is a good comp for us. So I'm not going to include this property. Yeah, the kitchen was completely remodeled. Not a good comp. Now, while everybody's looking, do you think that this property was a complete overhaul remodel, or did they just kind of update the important stuff, like maybe the kitchen and the bathroom?
It doesn't look like a complete remodel to me, but I don't know.
I agree with you, Crystal. So looking at this looks very, very original. This room is extremely original, frankly. And so, you know, it's interesting. This could be a good case study for example, if we wanted to talk to a developer and say, oh, what do you think the upside is on this property? And you know, we could point to this one as an example, because this looked like this was maybe flipped. Not entirely sure, but could be. And the more I look at it, the more I almost want to include it a little bit. Maybe. Huh. I think I will include it actually, because the kitchen has been updated, but you know, we could update our kitchen as well if we wanted to. Okay, so let's see this one over here on Blythe. Definitely interesting. I'm noticing that the bathrooms have been updated at some point. Has a couple more amenities in the backyard, I would say, than the other home. They have a converted garage, which is definitely an add value. So I'm not going to include this one. So, okay, so we have, let's see. Is there anything else that I'm not seeing on this page? Okay. I think I want a little more sales data than what I have, so I will go into this neighborhood. Yeah, so I mean, for example, like I was mentioning, this neighborhood a little bit below is slightly priced lower than the neighborhood that we're in. Even though the zip code's the same, just a couple blocks makes a bit of a difference. This home is, frankly, in my opinion, in great condition. Frankly, I think it's more, I would rather live here than that neighborhood because I just think the home is better. But for some reason, once you go past Pico and you get down into these neighborhoods, it's slightly lower priced versus if you go all the way up into like Rancho Park, you know, closer to the park, it's even more expensive. So it's interesting. Just something that I wanted to point out, that these homes are probably going to be, even if they're in better condition, they're going to be sold for slightly less than homes in this area right over here. And why is that? It's proximity to the West Side Pavilion is really what I'm getting at over here. As you can see on my map, the West Side Pavilion is right there, which has been driving sales prices a little bit higher. So even for a fixer, you're getting 1.6 versus down in this neighborhood for 1.6. It's already been fixed, but you know, it's just something that I wanted to point out. Okay, so we have these 3 properties selected. I'm going to go ahead and click View Listings. I'm going to hide all the properties that we didn't select. So now we're left with these 3 properties. Now, at this point, I'm going to go over here in the right-hand corner where it says Cloud CMA. I'm going to click it and create a CMA, max 50 listings. Great. So the homes that I've
Hi, this is Julie. I'm so sorry. I missed what you clicked.
Oh, sure. So over here in the right corner, it says Cloud CMA.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
You click that and create a CMA, max 50 listings.
Thank you.
No problem. And so while it's loading, you know, the 3 properties that we selected, obviously, if I wanted to, I could expand the sales period to try to go back a little bit further to find more properties, or I could have, you know, added, you know, maybe another bathroom or something, expanded the criteria a little bit more just to get a little bit more sales data, because that will factor into this pricing once I put in the criteria into the subject property. So, okay, we're going to call this test run. And the subject property is our 2253 Lennington property. 2253 Lennington. And it's going to pop up. I'm going to go ahead and click this. Now it automatically put in our square footage. For the bed count, I'm going to change that because I know it's a 4-bedroom house. It was just done without a permit. I'm still going to include it though. Technically speaking, it is a 3-bedroom, but it's very obvious that it's a 4-bedroom house. It just was not done with a permit. All righty. It is a residential property and all that fun stuff. Now, over here in the exact listings, we had already selected those listings when we were searching around the neighborhood. It is now under here in the exact listings column. So right now we're good to go. And the advanced info is already filled in for us. It says the year built, 1927, 1930, I was close. 6,074 square foot lot. Great. Now, remember I said that if we wanted to do this for a buyer, we could do the quick and dirty method, which automatically finds listings near the subject property. And we can add the criteria in over here. So we want it to be of like kind, you know, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whatever. Awesome. But since we already found those listings, we're going to go ahead and click over here down at the bottom, fetch listings. So right now, this is our subject property, the little blue house up in the corner of the map, not corner, but kind of center right, center top right. That's our blue house, that's us. This is the first comp, second comp, and third comp. And what we're gonna go ahead and do, what? Oh, anyway, what we're gonna go ahead and do is I can click price guide and net sheet. And right over here, it kind of spits out what the computer thinks the home would be worth. Now, remember I said it's going to take into consideration the bed bath count when it's comparing these properties together, because this does have an additional room added to it that even if it was done without a permit, I'm going to count that in with my my criteria. Remember I said 4-bed, 2-bath. Also, what it's considering is the square footage of these properties. Our property is a little bit more square footage than Veteran. It's a little more square footage than Greenfield, and it's a little bit below Pelham. So what we're gonna do is, I like what I'm looking at right now, and I'm looking at these numbers, the suggested list range. I agree with it. I'm gonna go ahead and click it. It'll automatically put it in here, and I will go ahead and then click Customize Report. Now, again, I want to remind you, I would prefer to have more than 3 properties to use. And I would do this a little bit longer, actually much longer, and really kind of dissect a lot of the different properties, but for educational purposes, this is just fine. What we're going to see over here is it's a title page, contact me, map of all listings, and all of these are the little bits and pieces that we have to put into our CMA. And then down over here, we have suggested list price, staging your home, showings, open house checklist, moving checklist, marketing plan. So what I would like to do is just show you what a couple of these things look like. The title page, and you should take some time to do this when you have a chance. The title page is comparative market analysis. It has the map of the area and a star over the property we're referring to. It's 2253 Linnington, Los Angeles, California, 90064. Test run is the name. It would usually say the client's name. It has a date, has a picture of me and our brokerage. Moving on down, we have a contact me page. And that contact me page just basically has me, my logo, my contact info, and all that fun stuff. Great. Now the meat and potatoes. We want to look at a map of all the listings. So that's the next page in our CMA. And we have our property over here, and we have the other 3 properties that are a little bit below us. All right. We want to do a summary of comparable properties. So we have a page that we're able to kind of look at a glance. We have the sold dates, the beds, the bath, the square footage, the price, and the price per square foot. That price per square foot is what has been applied to our suggested list price. Listing chapter. Anyway, just as listings. So it shows the details of the listings. It will have a page specifically for that. I'm loading it. Slow computer today. Oops, my computer is running a little slow today. Sorry about that. Let's try that again. Okay, so this is, for example, Pelham. So this is actually kind of perfect. For everybody who's on right now, remember I like to show a property that is just a little bit better condition than theirs. This is that property. So this property, while I am using it as our comps, I'm also using it as a tool to just show them, hey, this property compared to 2253 Linnington, it has recessed lighting. They've clearly gone in and painted it and redone stuff. It has air conditioning, which I know our property does not have. They remodeled the kitchens and all that fun stuff. So I would use this property to ask them, how do you think this property that sold for $2 million compares to our property? And they will undoubtedly say, oh gosh, let's look at these pictures. And sorry, the pictures are coming up in a second. So looking at this property, they're going to notice that the kitchen was redone and remodeled. They're going to notice that there was recessed lighting added. They're going to note a couple of these differences from their home. And we'll use this to show them that it was in great condition. Also, days on market, 8 days. That's a great quick sale. All righty. So anyway, so then moving down through this list, we would then review all the different properties and how they compare to ours. We want to do the comparable property statistics. That's fine. I'm not going to show the page right now. Sold property analysis, closing chapter. And then eventually we're going to ask them, what do you think your home is worth? And according to the comps, $1,021 per square foot being in fantastic condition like the Pelham property or the one that was remodeled, we're not there. We're not down at the bottom like that really ugly kind of home that sold with like the carpet and all that. We're somewhere in the middle of these two numbers. And that's exactly where I would price the home right now. So frankly, if I were to price this house currently, I would say it's, maybe $1.8 million or $1.830 or something like that. That still would be a little bit high on the higher end. So I would really maybe want to go right in the middle of these two, frankly. And that would be a really competitive, sales price in my opinion. And then also in the CMA, what it does have are some little tidbits. For example, staging your home. It goes over how important it is to stage your home. When done correctly, staging can not only set the right emotional tone for buyers about the home, but it can also help highlight the most attractive features of the home. Staging can potentially make you money too. 77% of listing agents said a well-staged environment increases the dollar value. It does. I actually have a property, the same property that we're referring to right now. When we didn't stage it, we got offers at $1.3 million, and we ended up selling it at $1.635 million. So that's like it was almost a $400,000 difference. Actually, we actually had a couple even lower.
Jared,
yep.
Quick question on that. Typically, does the sellers pay for the staging, or do agents sometimes pitch in?
I don't pitch in. Typically, it is the sellers, but because we have the concierge service at our office now, they don't have to do any money out of pocket. But I think that they get a better deal if they just pay for it up front with like Meredith Bear or something.
Got it. Okay, but it's just commonly paid by the sellers, because I've had some clients who wanted me to front the cost, and I just wanted to know what the common practice was.
Well, I would say to them is like, what we can do is we can front the cost, but you would have to pay for it through escrow. We'll put the money up front, but you have to pay at the end of escrow.
And so what happens in that event if there's a cancellation?
Well, then you better make sure it was listed right. The price is right.
All right.
So, but Jaime, to answer your question though, a little bit more, without dodging it, I would only recommend paying through escrow in that version of staging if I was very, very confident in the home sellability. I wouldn't, this is not a situation where I would just take the listing just to take it. You know what I mean? I would definitely go, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe we shouldn't stage it. Let's just put it on the market as is. Let's be aggressive in our pricing as much as possible. And if they still are like, we want to list it high, I might take that listing still just for the, advertising purpose. But other than that, I'm not going to put a lot of money into it, if that makes sense.
What happens if it doesn't sell? Like, would you as a real estate agent have to then pay back the brokerage for the staging since they never paid for it through escrow?
No, the sellers would be responsible for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I'm actually just curious, how much is staging on average? Like, let's say with the woman that you used.
So Meredith Bear. So I kind of forget, to be honest. All in for painting and staging, we paid less than $10,000. In fact, I think it was like $7,000. I think we did like maybe, I think it was split down the middle, the repairs and which we used a contractor for versus the staging. I think staging was maybe like 4,000 or something like that. And I think that the remainder was like 3,000 or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's frankly investing, even if they invested $15,000 into it, if we're getting offers at 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 before we staged it, and then we ended up selling it for 1.695, it's worth spending the money. Big time worth spending the money. So spend 15,000, get an extra 400. Yeah, I'm down. all day, every day. I take that. That's a huge return. Okay. Then, so after we went over staging, a showing open house checklist, we have a moving checklist, which I think is really, really cool. Kind of helps you to start planning or whatever. And then a marketing action plan that I have. I like just going over this with my clients. This is what we're gonna do, da 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 da, and all that fun stuff. Now, once we like what we have over here, we can go ahead and click Publish Report. And then we have it in this nice little, easy to view PDF. And we can print this out. We can go ahead and give them a printed copy, and we can keep our own copy for our own records. Let's see. And all that fun stuff. So it's really a powerful tool. I happen to like, and by the by, homes sold on average 105% of their list price. So they sold 5% above asking price. And that's very typical for homes in this area during this time period. You should expect that. But also it shows that they likely listed these homes at appropriate price ranges. The highest days on market that we have on this is 10 days on market. And that was for the worst property of the bunch. And even that one sold really quickly at $931 per square foot. So, and frankly, I think we would be in the average. So we'd be at $992 per square foot, which would be 92 times 1838. So yeah, we'd be at, I said like 1830, we'd be at $1,823 and $23,000. So I think that this is actually fantastic comps. We just kind of got the luck of the draw. It just kind of worked out that way. This is definitely a pretty good CMA for that location. Another thing I wanted to point out, oops, I didn't want to do that. Where did it go? Here we go. So anyway, these are all the CMAs I've done. It goes I've done over 105 so far already, and so yeah, CMAs are very, very powerful tools. This one, you could even, it doesn't have to just be, for example, properties, over here. I mean, this one is for, a $10 million property over in Newport Beach. And, very similar. This one is even better because we were able to this is a gated community in the area. So all of these home values are very true to the location. And we got a lot more, potential properties to work with. So, just so you know, that's what a CMA is. And do you have any questions?
Jared, for higher end properties, do you recommend working with a broker or with somebody specifically to try to get an idea or an exact, more of an accurate estimate before meeting with the clients? Because I imagine that those higher end properties won't have as many comps, and they're more unique than your typical traditional single family residence under 2 million, for instance.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all to get a second set of eyes. If somebody's available. So yeah, maybe I would ask like Michael Rosales to maybe take a second glance at something that I'm working on. Though Michael is also a competing agent of mine. So, I love Michael, but he's an active real estate agent as well. So I don't often share my CMAs with other agents, if I'm going to be honest with you, Jaime. Mainly because, no offense, I don't trust them. I don't want them to know the property is about to go on the market. Now, in the case of our broker, I think you're probably be in safe hands. But to be honest, no. I typically do my research and I kind of go with what I think.
Hypothetically, you don't have any comps to go based off of. Would you conduct an appraisal in that situation if it's a higher end market, or when does it make sense to actually do an appraisal, or have you ever?
Never. I've never done that. I mean, you could always find comps. You might have to expand your criteria to something that doesn't really necessarily make sense, and then do an add or decrease value based off of your property. You could always find comps. I've never run into a situation where you can't find comps. I mean, you might have to use, for example, let's say we're talking about a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You might have to use a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. You might have to use a home that is, built, within a 10, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would expand the criteria more and more until I found some comps that I could use. If you literally can't find any comps, yeah, I think at that point, maybe you'd want to talk to a broker or something like that. An appraiser, from my understanding, is usually a bank tool. So, I mean, it's not always 100% accurate, because maybe I would call title, frankly, if I couldn't find enough comps to see what is sold off market, maybe. But other than that, like, I think you'd still be able to find enough stuff. I don't know. Have you ever ran into a situation where you couldn't find anything? I don't know.
Not so much in the current market, but I do remember, before, there were very limited supplies or inventory, and I just had a hard time trying to do that. The other thing I ran into here and there is the owners selling with relatives or friends or whatnot, and they want the appraisal value or report up front. So I've had to do that. And so there was a little unusual where I had to run the report prior to them wanting to get pre-qualified and doing all that. So that was a little unusual too.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I haven't run into that, but yeah, I could, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. If somebody's saying, I'm not going to write, you're talking about representing a buyer who's like, I want to get it appraised first.
Yeah. So in that specific scenario was last year. And this was a trust after the parent passed, the last parent passed. One of the siblings wanted to buy the property and basically buy out the other siblings, but they didn't want to go through the process of the pre-approval until they knew what the property was worth. I showed them the comps, but they insisted on having an actual appraisal. So okay. I had to find an appraiser to do
so, yeah. In a trust situation, I can see that happening. Absolutely. I haven't had that happen to me in my career, but that makes sense. I could see that happening because it sounds like it was a property that was not on the market yet. It was something that they were like, hey, before you put on the market, I'll buy it, but I wanted to get appraised first.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. And in the end, I had given them the number, and it was pretty close to what it appraised for. And in the end, the brother didn't want to pay that much for it. And so it just went through a different process.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening, sure. I think that's very specific to the circumstance. But yeah, I could see that happening. Makes sense. Certainly. Absolutely. Yeah.
And what about the realist evaluation number that's there? I find that sometimes it's close, sometimes it's really off. What's your opinion about that evaluation figure?
Tell you honestly, don't use it. I haven't used it. I do my CMA like I just showed you, and that's pretty much all I do. What I will do sometimes is I'll check Zillow on like very last, worst case scenario. I'll look at Zillow just to kind of like see if I'm within the range of what I think it should be. But I haven't used Realist. I just haven't, frankly. Yeah. But I will say this, Jaime, I have in certain situations, I'll go all the way back to like 3 years if I can't find comps, to find that property that does match what that is. And then I will go into, for example, like 10K InfoSparks, it's called something else now. And I'll look at the percentage of, let's say it's 3 years ago, how much has the market changed in the last 3 years in that pricing category? And then I'll
Sure,
figure
yeah.
out a price that way. And I'll go,
Yeah.
oh, so the last home that's sold in this neighborhood that is close to our property, apparently in that price range, it has gone up 5%. So I would just add 5% of that sales price to that one and then maybe figure it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good strategy. I hadn't thought about that one.
Yeah. I typically like to go look for static data, data that I could, trust, and like actually look at versus, I've heard people just kind of like using feel and kind of like, I feel it's worth this much. I don't really like to do that too much, but for like some of those big trophy properties that are just like, a white whale, like Moby Dick's white whale, that's just one of a kind. Yeah, you're going to have to use a little feel. Like, you know what? I feel we could get this much for it. And then maybe that's how you get up to a $30 million sales price on a home in certain situations. But other than that, other than those circumstances, I'm using hard data to come up to the price.
Thank you.
Oh, show. All righty, y'all. So, I mean, that's pretty much the CMA. It was pretty quick and dirty, but basically what you're going to want to do is you want to find where the subject property is that you're going to comp. You're going to print out, usually I would print out like the MLS sheet on it, or from title if there's no MLS data. Maybe somebody's owned it for the last 70 years since it's sold last. Who knows? You can get that situation. But I'm going to take the bed bath count, the square footage, the lot size, all of that. I'm going to input it into my search criteria. I'm going to look for homes that have sold in the same neighborhood. I could either use zip code or draw like a, map of like a certain area or whatever. And from that point, I'll select the properties that best match the property I'm talking about, and click those, select those, go to Cloud CMA like we have over here. My mouse died. Oh well. And then I will go ahead and create the CMA that way. And then we're rocking and rolling. Once I get those data points in, it usually will spit me out a number that is pretty darn close. I'll try to average it out as much as possible. And that's how I come up with the sales price. So, all right. There is a little bit of feel to it as well. Once you're, for example, if you have a range between 1,765 and 1,8 whatever, and you have $100,000, gap, yeah, you're going to have to use a little bit of feel probably to kind of determine where you are in that range. But, that's pretty easy. It's like, hey, it's not the worst. It's not the best. It's somewhere in the middle. Let's go over here. So that's where the little bit of feel comes into it. But when you're talking about $100,000, as long as you're not priced out of that range, you're going to be good, so. All
this
right.
may be a dumb question, just really quick, but at what point do we get access to the MLS once we are licensed? Is that something that we have to go through the broker to do, or? Yeah,
so what you're going to do is you're going to sign up for like CLAW, the combined Los Angeles and West Side. What is it? Yeah, that's your car, I guess. And then you'll also get access to the MLS through that. And then you'll have classes and an orientation with the MLS. And you'll do a couple of classes to how to navigate it. And yeah, once you get that, you'll get all your credentials.
Okay, cool.
Log right in. Yeah. Any other questions about the MLS or creating CMAs or presenting CMAs? Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much. We're done at 1:19, so that's a little bit better than some of the other classes. And I hope you found this valuable, and get on out there and sell some houses, why don't you?
Thanks, Jared. Hey, Jared, do you have a minute for me to ask you a question after class?
Yeah, sure. Do you have my number?
Or we can just stay on if that works for you. It'll be fast.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So it has to do with listing presentations. What content, what material is there something that I can tie into from the office that I can use for a listing presentation that has, the list of items that should be included, maybe templates I can use? I just want to start using what Keller Williams Beverly Hills has, so that I can have
Yeah.
everything pieced together the same.
Have you gone on to Command yet?
No,
It's all in Command.
it's on Command. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's categorized and everything's in there.
Yes, it should be. And maybe
Okay.
I don't know if it's Blake still, if it's somebody else. Do you know who's in charge of technology in our office now? I don't.
You know, I received an email, and it has a list of contacts there. So I know from Alfredo, he provided me the list. So it might just be a matter of logging in and going through the list.
Sure.
So I'll go ahead and do that. I just figured I'd ask you since
Yeah. So
you're online.
on the my mouse is not working for some reason. Otherwise, I would try to.
Because I know he provided me with a list. In fact, let me just see if I can show you real quick.
Yeah, my mouse is not working.
Here it is.
That's weird.
So technology.
So I think it should be under like resources or templates. I think it's under templates under Command.
Okay. Under Command. Okay.
And
Yeah, and I think he just provided me with the information on how to log in and all that. So I didn't realize it was in there. I'll go ahead and look through there.
Perfect.
But yeah, so now that I know it's under there, I'll look it up. But so it sounds like it should provide you with all the information that you use, and then when you do your presentation, I imagine right now when you do listing presentations, you do them in person, or are you doing them through Teams? How are you managing it?
I do it in person. I feel comfortable enough to do that. Now, that's actually not true. One of my listing presentations that I did it completely on Zoom. And I just went through the CMA with sharing my screen, and I just went over all the points and stuff, and I asked them to walk me through the house while they were on Zoom. Excuse me. Actually, I think she was on FaceTime. So on her phone, she was on FaceTime. On the computer, we were on Zoom. That's how it happened. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
So when she was on FaceTime, she turned her phone around and was showing me the house, and I was like, okay, let me see that. Let me see that. Oh wow, tell me about this. Oh, cool. Yeah, and it actually worked really great. And frankly, I'm going to probably start using that a little more often if it seems like they are tech savvy even after the pandemic is over. Because if they are, like if I'm cold calling somebody and they're like, yeah, I'm interested in selling my house, I'd be like, great, we can do we can do it right now if you're willing to get on the FaceTime with me, and we can walk around the house virtually together, or I can come over at 2 or 3. What works better for you?
So the other thing I noticed is that in this office, the commission is typically set at the 5% threshold, right? So 5%, 2.5. How do you address their requests to reduce that to 2% or whatnot and be competitive, 4% total?
So I've had those conversations before, and I've yet to reduce my commission. Only in the only time I've ever reduced my commission was when I was double ending a deal. So there's a couple things that I like to bring up to people asking me to reduce my commission. One is I will go, interesting. Well, are you willing to pay for all the marketing? And if they go, well, no, I thought that's what you do. I'd be like, yeah, I understand that. And I typically do. Because of my commission, I'm able to put up thousands of dollars to do all the print advertising, all the SEO marketing, search engine optimization marketing. And by the by, when we have this conversation, it is already after I've gone over my marketing plan. So they're already fully aware of that there's SEO going on, that there's artificial intelligence, that there's, all my Facebook and Instagram, boosts and whatever. And, I've already basically kind of created a value proposition in my marketing. And then I'll say, well, are you willing to pay for my marketing expenses? And they go, well, no, I thought you were going to do that. I'd be like, yeah. And because of my commission, I'm able to do it. So, okay, well, still, you're looking at making $30,000, and I highly doubt you're going to do $30,000 worth of advertising. Like, no, of course not. I have to make a profit. You're absolutely right. But more importantly, if I was willing to negotiate my commission this quickly and this easily, how do you think I'm going to handle the negotiations when it comes to your sales price of your home? And then they go, oh, well, what do you mean by that? And it's like, well, listen, if you want it, do you want a poodle or do you want a pit bull, representing you as far as, negotiations on your property? They're like, well, no, I want a pit bull. I'd be like, exactly. And unfortunately, I don't negotiate my commission. And if they still kept going.
Plus, in the end, you get what you pay for, right? I mean, I think that's
right.
a good,
in the absence,
good approach is you get what
in
you
the
pay
absence
for.
of value, the only thing to, argue is price. And unfortunately for me, I offer a lot of value, frankly. And, another thing that I point out is the numbers don't lie. On average, I'm getting 5% above, asking price on my sales, on the properties that I sell. So my commission is paying for it, and it's in right there. So I'm not too worried about that. And I'd be like, listen, if you talk to, Purple Bricks, who's offering a 1%, commission, ask them if they're selling it, on average 5% over list price. I don't think that they do.
Yeah.
So that's
they're
another
like more on productivity, right? Let's close it.
Yeah. And then if they're still on it and they're still just, grinding me for my commission, I'll go, okay, how about this? So typically at my commission, the going rate is 6%. I'll agree to going for a 5% commission. How about that? And then they go, okay, great. But now, honestly, it's pretty much always 5% anyway. So I have no problem doing that. But when I walk into it, I always say that my commission is 6%, 3% to me and 3% to the buyer side. And then if I do have to negotiate down, it's going to be down to the 5%. Now, if it's still an issue.
But you always start at 6%?
Yeah, I like
you always start at 6%?
I like to say 6%. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go, 6% is standard, but I'm willing to go 5%, do 5%. How does that sound? And they're like, okay, sounds good. Great. And so that negotiation's already done right there. But if they're still kind of on my case about it, what I will say is something like this. How about this? I don't negotiate my base commission because I have to split that with another real estate agent. And the other real estate agent is going to be the buyer's agent. Now, they have not put any money into the listing. They have not done any of the advertising, and they have not done any of the legwork that I've done. So the only way that I can reduce my commission is if I reduce my side. Because if I end up reducing it lower than 5% and it shows anything under 2.5% for the buyer's agent, you're going to get a lot of people ignoring your property because the listing agents don't want to show it. They realize that they're going to make less money on this property. That's not me doing that. That's the buyer's agent doing that because we've reduced the commission down so much. So unfortunately, I can't, reduce my commission any further than that unless you're asking me to make less than the buyer's agent. I'm doing more work. I'm doing more advertising. I'm spending a lot of money. And you want me to make less than that person, and then they kind of go, "Oh no, I guess you're right. It is kind of a big ask of me."
Sure.
No problem. I understand. I appreciate you being this diligent in your questions. And if they still keep going, but oh gosh, my friend said that they did it for 4% or something like that, I'll go, listen. I'll tell you what. If I double end this deal, and I'm able to represent the buyer side and you, I'll reduce my commission to 4.5%. How does that sound? And they go, okay. And then the bottom I'll go is 4% if I double end it. If I double end it though, that's the key in there. If I double end it. So then I'll
you write that into the listing agreement?
Yep.
Do you write it up? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, the only time I've reduced my commission is when I was double ending it. And this other very, very weird case that was a divorce, that there was another agent involved, and I had to split it with there's two listing agents to one sale. It was kind of funky that way, but that's the only other time that I have.
And so what about friends and family? Do you take the same approach, or because sometimes you want to help them out?
I'd say to them, don't you want to help me out?
Right.
Family, don't you want to help me out? I'm helping them out by representing them, because if again, on average, when I represent a buyer, I get it below asking price. on average, if I'm representing the seller, I get it well above asking price. So, you know, I'm already helping them out. So don't they want to help me out? I got bills to pay too. They're going to make, you know, a couple $100,000 off of their, you know, $500,000 sale. I'm going to make, you know, bupkis in comparison. So, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, thanks for staying over and answering these questions. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thanks, and great. And by the way, during the time that you were doing your session, I had a buddy text me about his mother-in-law's house. So I was running a comps for a potential listing while you were doing the comps report. So
nice.
What a coincidence, right?
I like it, man. I like it.
So
I
ran it. Yeah. So thanks again, Jared. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. No problem. Have a great one. Cheers, bud. Bye.
You too, man.